Okay, in this video we're going to be having a look at the Dockcase 8-in-1 USB-C hub, and this is essentially kind of like a USB-C peripheral for people that need a card reader, and also it combines lots of different other things in there, like it's got a HDMI port, it's got a USB-C port for charging, USB-A port. So it's essentially taking lots of different peripherals and pushing them all into one useful unit that you can sort of do everything with. So, you know, if you're on the go, easier to carry around. If you're on your desk, less wires and mess essentially. And full disclosure, I was sent this from Dockcase. It's a kind of a product that I wanted to try out and use, because I actually, as you can see at the start of this video, I've got sort of 3 or 4 different wires that I'm already using, all for different things. And the fact that this brings it all into one device is something that I was particularly interested in. So, you know, everything in this is just my own thoughts and opinions, but the device has been sent to me. So first things first, we'll just open up the case and have a quick look inside the box and what we get. So you can see sort of first off the actual packaging. The packaging for it is quite premium. It's quite a nice looking case and packaging. And then when we open it up, just take these off. I'll just cut them like this. Probably quicker. There we go. And then we can have a look inside. And you can see we've got the main unit inside this bag, and we've also got this piece of cardboard beneath, which underneath that we've got our USB-C cable. So it's, as I said at the start, it's a USB-C device. There are also instructions in there, which I've just kind of thrown to the side for a minute, but you can see it's USB-C to USB-C device. So you've got your USB-C in on the unit, and then I'm going to be using it with my MacBook Pro. You can use it with a variety of laptops. There's I'll link to like a compatibility sheet of like different things you can use it with, but essentially most USB-C devices it's compatible with. It's really, because of what it is, it's mostly aimed at people, you know, if they're going to be using desktop computer, laptop, but it also will work on a variety of tablets, and it even works on some kind of games consoles like Switch and Steam Deck and things like that. So it's got quite a lot of different kind of options for use. And it's really, I mean, from my point of view, this is aimed at, you know, filmmakers, photographers, people that want kind of a neat all-in-one solution for all their kind of media peripherals. And as I say, it's most likely going to be used on something like a laptop. It's nice because it's, as I say, something that you can have a nice tidy desk with, but also on the go. It's small enough that you can throw it into a bag and it will be absolutely fine. You know, it's small, it's pretty lightweight. It's not that much bigger than a lot of kind of other readers, considering it's got quite a big card reader, considering it's got CF Express A and B, Type A and B. So you'll kind of notice the hub itself. You can kind of just about see here. We've got a screen in the middle, so it's got a bit of a readout for kind of, you know, like the inputs and the outputs for it. And we'll just quickly run through the kind of peripheral options on there. If I can just grab focus on this, there we go. So you can see here we've got CF Express Type B and Type A slots, and we've got a USB-A port, which is really useful for kind of older devices. So you can connect older things like printers, scanners. You might have sort of graphic tablets and possibly old hard drives and things like that that still use that old USB-A port. You've got your host port, which is the one that you'll be using that USB-C cable for. And then on this side, you've got a few different options on here as well. You've got your USB-C PD and the PD port. Sorry, this focus is absolutely atrocious. There we go. You've got your USB-C PD port, and that actually allows you to push power into the device that you're using. So say you're using a laptop, for example, you could plug in a power delivery port into here, and then that will start charging the laptop through the dock case. So that's quite useful. And then we've also got HDMI here, so second screen, plug it into this, out through to the screen, and you've got that. It's capable of sort of 4K 60 and 4K 120. And then you've also got SD and TF ports here on the side, and that's all of them. So that's it sort of pushes together quite a lot of different kind of inputs there. I mean, certainly from my point of view, having CF Express Type B cards on a camera, I find it very difficult to even find card readers that have CF Express Type B and a couple of other types, because if you watch this channel, you'll know I kind of use the Panasonic GH6, so that's CF Express Type B cards, and it uses SD cards as well. So I'm using both of those on a regular basis, and I need, you know, to be able to offload those, whether it's at my desk or whether I'm kind of out and about. And also I use the DJI Mini Pro 3. I mean, most drones use similar things. You've got micro SD cards as well thrown into the mix. And you can use those kind of little SD SD adapters for them, but I prefer it really if I've just got a micro SD port that I can use. So this, you know, even at the very minimum, combines all of those things, which is great. You know, it's got all of the cards that I use covered in one unit, and it is sort of very much focused, like I say, around people that are probably photographers or filmmakers, because this is quite a premium part of it, the CF Express kind of part. And then the other side of it, you've got obviously all the additional peripheral bits. So, you know, the USB-A port is nice, because I've got adapters that are sort of just USB-C A, and then they don't have the additional port for USB-C, so you kind of lose your USB-C port to then have USB-A ports. So it's quite nice that it sort of caters for both of those. You get your port back and you can use USB-A, so for me that's quite nice. And again, HDMI, I'm quite lucky on my laptop actually, because I can go straight out from the laptop. But it's not always super convenient for how I place it. If I want a screen sat next to it, sometimes it's nice to be able to run out from it and go from another device. So that's useful as well. So it's got quite a lot of, for me, a lot of plus points. And that kind of brings us to, you know, one of the main sticking points for me, which is the price. So you've got, at the time I received this, or at the time of making this video, it's £179.99, but there was a £25 voucher through Amazon. So you're looking at about £155 at the time of recording this. And as I say, to me, this would be a replacement for those other peripherals that I had there. So for my ones, I've got, you can kind of see here, so CF Express Type B reader. I've done a video about this one, I'll link it up into the corner. It's a cheap and cheerful reader. It's about 25 to £30. My USB-C A port, or USB-C A adapter, is this one. Again, fairly cheap and cheerful, kind of Amazon jobby, about £15 to £20 on that one. And then I also use this kind of multi-card reader. So the other one was CF Express Type B, and then this one covers everything else. So, you know, I've got my SD, my micro SD ports in this one. And that one was around £20. So let's say at the minimum, all of those together, about £60. And, you know, this is sort of more around 155. So you're looking at a fairly big kind of deficit between the two. You know, there's about £95 extra, which is quite a premium. But on the other side of that, it's the kind of amount of space that you're kind of saving with it, the lack of having to use all of those different ports, and you're essentially doing away with all of this, or in my case you're kind of doing away with all of this. So it's quite nice to be able to do that. One of the real kind of issues for me is if my card reader gets sort of lent out to somebody, or it's one of them gets forgotten, and then that's a real problem. Whereas I can just take this with me. I know everything's in this. It's got everything there, even the HDMI. The HDMI is there for it. I've got all my card readers there. If if I do need to sort of pick up something else, if I get a card jammed in something, or a good example really is like with GoPros and things like that, quite often they are getting absolutely soaked, and sometimes I don't want to take the cards out, but sometimes I can get access to the port, so I can kind of plug them in, but I'm not always that keen to take the cards out, just in case the card's wet and it ends up going into something else, because I don't always fully kind of trust them. But it's you've got sort of all those options sat within this, and like I say, I appreciate it is like a more kind of premium item. But as I say, I think with the introduction of a USB-C, with the introduction of like a CF Express Type B card slot, they're really aiming this at the high end market, because if you've got a camera that supports CF Express Type B, you've got essentially a pretty high end mirrorless camera, and you're probably taking photography or video pretty seriously. So this is kind of another tool in the toolbox to kind of do that. And like I say, I do think it's a very nice option for that. I mean, what I can do is I can quickly plug it in, and then you can kind of see the screen. Annoyingly, it will be upside down, because the one nice thing on this, or what would be a nice thing, is if the screen rotated, which it doesn't. It only goes one way. Which isn't a massive deal. I mean, this screen on here essentially just gives you a readout of what's going on, and it's actually fully touchscreen, so you can kind of come into sections of it, and you can kind of scroll back out of them, and just go through, and it'll give you, like I say, readouts, what's going on, cards that are connected, transfer speeds, all that kind of stuff, and the sort of PD charging outputs and things like that. So it's actually really nice. It's a nice kind of screen readout from it, and you've actually got the option. Another nice thing on there, you've got the option to use 3 different ports at a time to get things onto there. The CF Express B and A, you can't, but apart from that, so for me that's perfect, because I've got these 3 different card types, and I can basically offload everything all in one go, straight through one device, which is great. That's really good. So in terms of speed, we can have a look at that. We'll sort of come across to the desktop, and I'll kind of show you what we can kind of do in terms of speed. It's a USB 3.2 second gen, so it's a quick interface, and it's got up to sort of 10 gigabits a second transfer speed and 1,000 megabytes a second using CF Express Type B cards. It's a very fast reader. I mean, it probably stands to be said as well. My other card readers and stuff are not quite as quick as this, so this is a better tool in terms of speed. So it's good for that. We could quickly have a look and see how quickly we can get some things across on it. Okay, so I've got a CF Express Type B card plugged in, and you can kind of see here it's all sort of set up and ready to go. I've got a folder just on my MacBook Pro, so it's going straight to the SSD, so we've got no bottlenecks getting it onto like another external drive or anything like that. So I can take this file, it's about 900, you can see it's nearly a gig, 970 meg. And then you can see it's just like instant how quickly it comes off. 1.2 gig, almost instant. It's amazing, and compared to some of my other readers, it's like it is absolutely rapid. So, and you can see it's loading up all these previews as well, nice and quick. As it may depend on what type of device you're running it on as well. and also what USB-C port you've got on your computer. But you can see another, here we go, like nearly 900 meg file, just instant. So that's really good. And then what we'll do actually as well, like I said, we can plug in an SD card as well whilst we're going. And then you should be able to see, you could probably just about see these lighting up on here. So we've got the CF Express, this is sort of the green one. And then we've got the red one now, which is the which is our SD cards. Sorry, I'm just trying to do this on the computer whilst I'm also sorting that out. So on here we can grab some files. So you can see here, this is a huge file. We've got like a 5 gig file here on this SD card. This is going to be slightly slower because you know, SD cards in general are not as quick offloading as the CF Express cards, but you can kind of see here, it's a much bigger file anyway. In general, it's a 5 gig file, so you can kind of see that transferring across now. I think that the speed on this is probably sits around kind of a third of your CF Express Type B kind of speeds, but I mean, that's the difference between the cards. CF Express Type B cards are rapid compared to SD cards, so you know it's more of a hold up on the card side than it is on the actual the sort of Dockcase, like transferring it over. And as I say, that is still pretty rapid there for, you know, a 5 gig file. We can see if we can find a couple of smaller ones. So it kind of depends what sort of size files you're copying over, but let's say this one. So we've got about 250 meg there file, and you can see it's nearly halfway done straight away. So it took a couple of seconds really to transfer that sort of 250 meg. A lot of you might not be shooting, you know, 5 gig files, so that's probably not an issue for you. And then you can see on here, we can kind of turn it over and we can put in our micro SD. Sorry, I always put these in the wrong way. There we go. So that goes upside down into there. And then you can see on there it says TF card inserted, which essentially means the micro SD card. And you can see we've just got a load of sort of drone shots on here. So on our micro SD card, we could copy over, let's say this one, 400 meg. Oh, sorry, 40 meg. No, that's a bit different. Let me see if I can find a bit of a bigger file than that. Oh, sorry, these are all lots of images. There we go. So we've got 1 gig file that we can transfer over from the micro SD card. It's a fairly decent card, you know, that one. It's like I say, I use it on my drone, so you can see that's taken about 5 seconds to copy over a gig from the from that card. So as I say, you can if you want, if you've got files that are big enough, I might not be able to do it quickly enough, to be honest. You need to find what I could do. Let me try and find some files that are big enough on here. So that one, that's 5 gig. So you could sort of set that off going. We can replace that. Come into another one. And then whilst that's going, you can copy over another thing, like I say, from another card. But to be honest, a lot of the time it's so fast, it's just kind of, it's fairly rapid. So getting even from one card to the next card is slightly difficult sometimes before it's even done. So you've got obviously, like I say, the bigger files like this one, the 5 gig one, and I've done that just so I can kind of show you whilst it's going. But there's no real kind of bottleneck on those other files. They're just going, like they just copy over very quickly. So it's kind of copying them both over isn't really a problem. You can, I think I've missed the thing there. There you go. So that one's going as well, and they're both going to complete at about the same time, I think, size-wise. You can just see, you can just rapidly offload stuff, which, like I say, is great because I quite often, I'll have stuff from my camera, stuff from usually backup bits from my camera as well. Sometimes I kind of shoot in so that I've got photos on one card and video on the other card, and then I'll have all the drone stuff as well. So, I'll be offloading tons and tons of kind of data from there, and this sort of just allows me to do that. And like I say, I can also sort of fire up a second screen and do other things whilst I've kind of whilst I'm in the process of doing it. So there are a lot of benefits to it. One kind of thing I would say with the design of it, and it's not really a fault of the of it. It maybe would have been nice. I mean, I don't know what the internals of this look like, but it maybe would have been nice to have the micro SD slot, like somewhere else, like in this bit of space. It's probably not possible because you've got two cards going in here that are quite big cards. But essentially with this, micro SD cards are real fiddly. You've got to push it in with your finger. It comes partly out. And then what you'll find is, what I'll do, let me just eject these quickly, and then I can just take these all out. What you'll find is that if you try and get the micro SD card out, it's sort of not accessible. You can't quite get your fingers onto it to get it out. So what you've got to do is take the SD card out and then take your micro SD card out, which is always still fiddly because it's a micro SD card, but it will actually come out. So it's just one of those things. I mean, you just think about that in your workflow. Essentially it happens once, and then you just think, okay, well, I've got to put the micro SD in first, then the SD, and then the SD comes out, and then the micro SD, and it just becomes part of your workflow. But it's that's just kind of how that kind of works. That's how I found it. So it's a nice little kind of unit, and very rapid. It kind of it has a temperature display as well, because you've got things like CF Express cards in here which get really hot, so it's useful for that. So overall, I do think it's a really good device. It's a premium device. It does a lot of things I need it to do. It sort of brings lots of functionality from lots of different peripherals just straight into one, and it seems like a good, reliable little device so far. And maybe do like a long-term review on it or something. But essentially, this is going to be the thing that sits on my desk and kind of controls all of this. And when I'm out and about, I'll be taking this with me rather than a bunch of wires and adapters, because it's just so much easier. You just take one USB-C cable, one device, and then I just have something that I can offload everything with straight away, and it's also got peripherals for everything else. So it's just a very useful device. I mean, one thing I did think when I was using it is that if it had the option for like an NVMe, that would be really good. Like, so, it's got a built-in SSD, and then you can basically just sort of put everything onto it, whether that's through like the computer interface, or whether that's through like a button option on the screen where you just sort of tell it to offload everything, and then you can read the files from here. It's it would be a nice option, and they do have that in a different product. It's the 7-in-1. And the 7-in-1 has the NVMe compatibility, so you can get up to I think it's a 2 terabyte drive in there. But you lose the CF Express Type B slot, which for me is a problem because that's my primary shooting slot on my camera. So I can't do away with that for SSD, which it's not a huge deal. I've got my laptop that I can drop stuff onto. I always leave space on there, and I'll always have hard drives with me. So like little mini Samsung T-Shields, that type of thing, or any small kind of durable SSDs I'll have with me ready to kind of offload all of this onto. So that would be nice if they kind of introduce it in the future, but at the same time, this is actually a nice size to get into a pocket in my camera bag without it being too cumbersome. So it's one of those things that would be nice to have, but whether it's practical, I don't really know. But as it sits as a product, I really like it. I think it's a really good product. You know, it solves the problem. Is it, you know, a little bit on the more expensive side? Yes, but I think kind of the market that it caters to, you know, you can kind of expect it a little bit, really, for all the functionality that it offers and everything that it does. So yeah, if you've got any questions about it, obviously, you know, leave a comment, and hopefully you found this video helpful. If you have, give it a like. If you want to see more content like this, please subscribe.